Hey everybody, welcome to the Sith Dominion on Geek News Now official on YouTube. We are really excited to be here today. Thank you all for voting, first of all. Okay, it was awesome to see some feedback from last week, and we're going to continue the conversation about the nightsisters, the witches of Dathomir. So later. But first, let me introduce my, I would say, semi-regular co-host at this point. Zane Martin, say hello to everybody. How are
Hello,
you
how's it
been?
going, y'all?
What have you been doing this week?
Um, I had a big gig out in Wimberley.
Yes, you did have a big gig. I got to see that.
Yeah, we counted 150, 200 people there.
Yeah, it was pretty sick. It was a good job. Also, I, playing for tips. I was gonna rob you whenever you were, when you were going back to your car. I was just gonna take your wad because that chunk that
It
was
was,
awesome.
it was all ones.
I was like, I need money
It was,
for
it was
lunch.
all ones.
Yeah, so no, it was a great show, Zane.
Thank you.
Great. Um, Tonight we also have Mike from Geek News Now. He's one of our social guys and more. He comes from a nerdy place of goodness, from everything from Potter World to LOR to, I mean, you name it, Star Wars, of course. He does stuff for our TikTok page and other socials. There's so much, man, and I'll let you get into it. But Mike, thank you for being on our show today.
No, absolutely.
So talk to us a little bit. Just we'll get into you a little later. I don't think you realized maybe we were going to talk to you that much, but just a heads up. Am I on? I mean, social media, TikTok. What else do you do for our great organization of GNN?
Um, right now, I'm still pretty new to the social group. I've been friends with Cam, who does Cam and Focus,
Mm-hmm.
and the big man himself, David Gramillion. I've been friends with them for years. I don't even remember how I got to be friends with them or how I started following Geek News Now, but I've been following from since 2019, 2020, so. I just remember seeing a post that Cam shared one day saying that they were looking for people that wanted to join the social group. I was like, dude, sign me up, let's go, And
Yeah.
I'd actually guest starred on, I guest starred, but I was a guest on what was it? Oh no, brain part. Cantina Happy Hour. That was it.
Ah, yes.
I was on an episode of Cantina Happy Hour when they were going over the Kenobi series. That's my buddy there. What's up, Malik? Alucard has been my gamer tag for years now, so
Awesome.
that's what that's about. So yeah, I'm also an anime nerd. Um, so and I was like, I really want to get more into this. Like, this seems like a lot of fun. So I was like, bro, sign me up. So he got me in contact with David, who got me in contact with Debbie at the time, who was running everything at the time. And she was basically like, so you want to do Facebook, Instagram, or TikTok? And I was like,
Yes.
TikTok. Let's do that, because that seems like a lot. Like, I can do a lot with TikTok with a very minimal brain power most of the time. Sometimes I do have to actually think about it, but it's usually just
Sure.
throwing up videos and promoting shows like this. I actually about half an hour ago, I actually posted a video saying, "Hey, come check us out. I'm going to be there." And yeah.
Heck yeah. Well, we'll circle back here in a little while and get a little deeper into your fandom and geekness because that's what we're about. So
always.
Let's start off with the HoloNet highlights. So I've been into this whole audio book thing since a couple weeks ago. My son's been trying to get me into it. That crazy Zane guy. And I did the Ventress book, the Dark Disciple book, in 3 days because I could listen to it. What a great story. So I've been looking at what I should do next, and I came across it's not Night Sister, but we'll talk about it anyway because this is the HoloNet, which is our news. A couple weeks ago, Star Wars Inquisitor Rise of the Red Blade was released. And it goes through kind of the sequence of events for the 13th sister, who is Iskat Akaris. And Iskat Akaris started out as a Padawan. Iskat Akaris actually fought at the Battle of Geonosis whenever like all the Jedi end up and it's all crazy in the arena. She was there. And so there's all this crazy stuff in this book, and so I've started it, but I mean I didn't have time to finish it. So I wanted to kind of talk about that to lead us into something. The Inquisitors, and I wanted to talk about this in our HoloNet news piece because is it just me, or are we going a little Inquisitor crazy in the last 8 months to a year? It may just be me.
Honestly, I mean, I do think they're really putting a lot more of their chips into the Inquisitors, but I mean, I'm not really minding it that much. It's really cool to see. Oh, you have something to say? No, it's really cool to see. Really all the inner workings of Vader's own little circle. You know, the ones who were actually getting their hands dirty while Vader was off doing his own.
Again, playing loose with the whole rule of two.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But I mean, yeah, you're right. They had Kenobi came out, Jedi Survivor had some more, and then now we have the 13th sister.
Mm-hmm. Mike,
that's crazy.
So me personally, I'm a little behind on the Inquisitor stuff, but the way I look at it is they took a risk with Rebels introducing the Inquisitors. Because obviously there are going to be people who are like, oh, well, that wasn't there before. Why wasn't that ever mentioned before? Why are they adding new stuff? But I think that a lot of people kind of saw the Inquisitors as, okay, well, this is new. Like, people have been wanting new Star Wars, like, new Star Wars stuff, not just like a continuation of the story, but like new lore, new characters, and stuff like that for a long time. And the fact that the Inquisitors are new characters. They're at the time they were unknown, uncharted territory, and they were classified under, the favorite characteristics of lightsaber wielders, force users. Like that's what people watch. That's what a lot of people watch Star Wars for. I remember being a kid, and I was born in like '95, so like the first Star Wars movie I ever saw in the theater was Phantom Menace. So I remember being a kid and like it was like the last half hour of the movie or whatever, and they kept switching back between a lightsaber fight between the Duel of Fates fight between Kenobi, Maul, and Qui-Gon, and then it would cut over to Anakin flying in space. I was like, go back to the fight. Like that's what I watched Star Wars for, at least as a kid. Like obviously I have a bit more taste now. But I think they've seen that enthusiasm from the fans and saying, okay, the Inquisitors, we like that. Like, let's learn more about that. So they've built on, now with Kenobi. I actually really liked Reva in that. I know a lot of people didn't. But I actually really liked the character of Reva because it showed, like, the hubris of what surviving Order 66 and then choosing to go to the dark side and then thinking, oh, well, I'm just going to take down Vader from the inside because, and it's like, nah. Good try though. Good try. So I really liked that. And then I have not read the book yet, the one about the 13th sister. I've not read that yet. But it is on my to-be-read list. I have so many Star Wars books on my to-be-read list because the fact of the matter is, and I'm not proud to say this, I've only ever read one Star Wars book.
Which one?
And that was Darth Plagueis.
That's a good one.
It is a good one.
It is a good one. It's fantastic.
Give me a second. I've got some sort of issue happening. There we go. Let's get some extra light here, Dana. Sorry about that.
It's no Timothy Zahn book, but
Timothy
it
Zahn,
works.
man.
James Luceno does a good job, though.
Oh, he does a good job.
Yeah,
Well,
I definitely want to see some more of his books.
Looking to your point, Mike, we do love the dueling, of course, and we love the force wielding, and I think just growing up for myself, Vader was always more appealing because he had that touch of darkness, whereas Luke was just the goody boy, and I mean, good for him. I mean, he's needed, yin and yang,
Yeah.
but I just felt that the whole story of Anakin was so much deeper. And when I think of Inquisitors, I think of Anakin. I think of someone who had an internal struggle. I think of someone who knows the difference between what the universe is telling them to do or not to do. However, in the case of Order 66, maybe this is my only choice if I want to survive. And that is something, Mike, I had not thought of for them, that they maybe didn't have a choice. Some of them felt like they didn't have a choice. But man,
Right.
I am excited about more Inquisitors. Means more dark side, more Sith, more lore, more. Oh, and of course this book.
More content.
Yes,
Man.
I think that's what's going to draw me into this book more, is how she manages to go from fighting and to save Anakin and Padme and Obi-Wan and on Geonosis to being the 13th sister. Like, this is going to be good. I can't wait to see it. So that was our holonet for today, and I appreciate you guys' input because this is cool, man. We're gonna start talking about the old Night Sisters. It's time for the deep side. No, not deep side. Dark side. These days when you get it right. Dark side deep dive with Dr. Dana. So
There you go.
So I have a job,
side,
right? A real job. But then I also have like a side gig, and I was just doing a thing for my side gig where I'm kind of talking about personality and whatever in my doctorate in leadership, whatever. And all I kept wanting to do was, hey guys, if you really want to learn like the good stuff, check out the podcast Sith Dominion, because we talk about like deep stuff with like Star Wars. And they're like, oh, Star Wars. And I'm like, no, like blah blah blah. And I kind of went through some stuff. So I was totally pimping the show. Wow. But I think this is so cool that I don't know that we can have a conversation outside of this arena about Night Sisters, and that they have some great things that we can learn from. And one of the things we'll talk, I guess, more about individuals here and there throughout our conversation. Individuals like Mother Towson, like Talia, like Ventress. We'll touch on her again, and of course, we'll talk about the brothers. And you've got Savage and Maul and all the others in the Clone Wars. Is that Rebels? Rebels.
Clone
Where are
Wars,
they?
Andrew.
Clone Wars. I'm sorry. But if we start with where did they come from? There's some, I think, back and forth, and I don't know if where you all reside on the history of the Night Sisters, but there's a Jedi that potentially started everything there, which caused which caused the rift between the Jedi and the Night Sisters not trusting the Jedi. And yeah, so there's that.
As you
There's
do.
also, as you do. I mean, come on. What did I say last week? Come on, they were going to assassinate. Come on, Jedi, terrible, evil people. There's that. There's the matriarchal structure of the. And it's a tough word, man. Yeah, but you can say patriarch really easily. Yeah, I know. I'm not that guy though. So when you look at that, I kind of compare that to Wonder Woman, right? The Amazonian, you get the men are you do over there, and that's what y'all's job is, and we run the show. And then lastly, kind of what happened to them and their impact on the galaxy, because they did, as the Night Sisters, have an impact on the galaxy, whether that was through Mother Talzin and Ventress and that group, or the brothers in Maul and Savage. I mean, Maul, good God. So, and we got a little piece of art later from a concept artist that is pretty cool with Maul and the Night Sisters. It's really sick. So let's dive in, man. So when you guys think Night Sister, what's the first thing that pops in your head, Mike?
Maul. but that's just because he's my favorite character, and I just associate like I know that's where his name comes from.
Yeah.
But okay, if I actually stop and think about it, I'm like, okay, that's Asajj Ventress, that's Mother Talzin, that's like that's the. I always found the Night Sisters very interesting because what they did was not necessarily the Force, but it was something else that was kind of connected to the Force, but wasn't the Force. It was basically magic. And I always found that really cool. And I wish, and maybe I might be behind, honestly, but I wish I got more information about what exactly it is that they do. Like, where does the source of their power come from? Is it the Force? Is it like the dark side of the Force? Or is it more like primordial than that? Is it more ethereal? Like, that's something that really interested me, and I could be very behind. They may have explained all of this already, and I've just missed it.
So I know that there's legends and canon, right? And I read The Courtship of Leia, which is where they were first introduced. And if you're not familiar and you're just now listening to the show, you didn't listen last week. Han Solo wins a planet in a game of Sabacc and gives it to Leia, who's being courted by some other alien dude from another planet using special pheromones and under his spell. I love the book, you can tell. It's one of the few I actually read. No, I'm just kidding. But he ends up, hey, I love you, and here is a planet. Well, now they go to the planet, and it's inhabited by these crazy dark side, Night Sister, Sith witch, crazy people. So, yes, I think in the legends, it was a planet consumed by the dark. Like, had the dark side, say Mustafar or Dagobah even had dark side, especially spots. But the planet was inherently aligned. And so because the planet was inherently aligned, someone's going to call me out, and I hope you do and to correct me. Then depending on what story actually happened, whether it was the Jedi or they formed organically, the Book of Law was written by the Jedi girl. I can't remember her name. And she, that was like the book of spells and what to do and how to do this and blah, blah, blah. And this is how you do it. And so I was trying to find, like, if you're familiar with the Bounty Hunter book or the Jedi book or the Sith book that were in those. Yeah, you got one right now? I do too. I got the Sith one. Where it's like notes in the margin by Palpatine and all this. I want a Night Sister book, the Book of Law, like this. So if you're listening, Hasbro, whoever has the power, LucasArts, make me a Night Sister one, please. So
Pretty sure it'd be a Disney Hyperion.
Yeah, no. Yeah, you get the Criterion collection, and you can wait. What? Okay, another $80. So what? So Zane, when you hear Night Sister, what do you think?
Okay, so
it's already taken.
No, okay. I won't say mom. The very first thing I think of when I hear Night Sisters is on the mobile game Star Wars Galaxy of Heroes. There's this event that comes around every so often, which is with the Night Sisters, and you have to destroy the altar, or the stupid zombie Night Sisters keep coming back.
Just keep coming.
They keep coming back, and that hatred. Those, it sucks.
I got you. And I've been playing that game since it was released. Even today I played that game, and I don't know what you're talking about. I just auto it now, and have been for about 5 years autoing that. But that's okay, son. You'll catch up one day.
Right, we're at the same level. It's okay.
It only goes to 85. No, so the Night Sisters can conjure certain imagery in your head. And I think for me, it's always been the Clone Wars where you have the Talia piece, and she was one that I really was drawn to, and again, just that internal conflict we've talked about on the show before. It's so human, right? I know she's not human, whatever. Point is, it's a human thing. We all have conflict. We're all torn. But how do we get past that? How do we get through that? And those decisions that they are making are a great outline of what to or not to do. And I think whether the writers, Filoni or whoever, like they have that locked in on what it means to tell a great story in the way of making it attainable and tactile for many viewers and accessible. And they're doing a great job of that with the Night Sisters, because you thought of the game, and Mike, you thought of Maul, and I'm thinking of Talia. So score, they're doing their job. So the next piece is so when we're thinking about the leader, you had Mother Taliesin, right, as the matriarch, but if you're familiar with all those characters, you've got Daka also, who was more the medicine woman type, I guess, character, and you had, of course,
The witch doctor.
yeah, there you go, the witch doctor. Well, of course. Wow, Dana, you're not spot on today. If Mike wasn't here, this show would be derailed already. But yeah, I think that when you look at the legacy of what has been written so far, everyone who knows Star Wars knows the Night Sisters, and I think that's a good job by the writing team. So my question for you is, from what you know of the Night Sisters, what is your favorite kind of arc in storytelling? Again, we all three picked different pieces of Night Sisters that we think of. What's your kind of favorite arc, or how it works with the Star Wars? What's your favorite piece of that? Either of you. I love how you put to the side.
Yeah. I mean, I can go first.
Go ahead.
Honestly, I think my favorite arc that had to do with the Night Sisters in general had nothing to do with the Night Sisters. It was this plot line in Rebels, where they are sent to whatever planet, and I don't even remember what the whole thing was, but they get possessed by the Night Sister spirits. And throughout that whole experience, they really clue you in. They don't give too much, but they clue you in on what had been happening to the Night Sisters and everything with that. And I think it really showed the anger that Mother Taliesin had after she was killed.
Yeah, killed. Always bunny ears with
Star Wars. I didn't see her die completely.
Yeah. I can't think of any Jedi that held on to their life force through the Force. But you can do that on the dark side. So why wouldn't you be on the dark side? I mean, it just makes sense that you could hang on. I mean, Scion, how many times Maul's been brought back and Ventress brought back? I mean, like, why wouldn't you do it? Who?
I'm still convinced that Maul's not dead.
Oh, man.
I'm still convinced that Maul's not dead.
I mean,
I have to believe it.
I gotta say, that was one of my favorite episodes so far that we've done in our 6, was the Maul episode, because I can't wait to get to the other.
That's the episode I should have been in on, because I could sit here for hours and talk about Maul.
So our guest on that show was Matt, and Matt he hasn't been able to, because now we've moved this to a live thing on Tuesdays, and he has something, but he was like, oh, I'm totally down for that one. He hasn't done any shows, but that one he'll make time for because it's Maul. but Maul is special, you know. He comes from Dathomir, and he was a slave, whatever. Like, how I'm trying to be as PC as I can, but that's essentially what the men were, or the Brotherhood. What they served the Night Sisters.
They were servants.
Servants.
And it wasn't
I'm pretty sure it's the PC way to say that.
Sure, and it wasn't like, oh, we're being mistreated. Whatever. Like, that's just the way it was, and they accepted that. And I think Mother Taliesin had a great eye for what was to come. Her foresight, I think, was good, and the relationships, not relationships, the alliances that she would form she knew there was more to it and was prepared for it, I think, in nearly every case. And that's one of the things that when we start talking about bringing this on the deep dive side, bringing it into the real world, it's I can't remember her name, and I'll have to look it up. Give me a second. But the CEO of PepsiCo, Indra Nooyi. So when she took over PepsiCo, it's like this was not like, oh, there's all these women CEOs. No, I mean, she was rare that she ascended to that spot. And when she did, then she made it a point to be very fair and very honest about who her staff was and who she wanted to bring on. And it was really awesome how she didn't make it a matriarch, but she did bring in more women into the workplace at very high C-level. And I thought that was wonderful. I think it's a great example of how we can compare to Mother Talzin and the Night Sisters in a very positive way. That no, not making the Brotherhood be servitude to the Night Sisters, or in the work world, the management team, but certainly looking out for and keeping close to those folks around you that you know will help you be successful, man or woman, and bring them up. And I really think that's the way that the Night Sisters functioned in a very what's the word, very just and fair way. If you screwed with them, like they destroy you. But if you were fair and you were just, they were too. So I don't know. I thought that was cool. Did I miss that? Did we get that whole quote there? Yeah. Yeah, much like the Amazon cultures. Yeah, we were talking about that just a while ago. Thank you. But what are you pointing down? What are you doing? That's Cat, by the way. Mike, what do you think, man? Just looking at how the Night Sisters in their org function. I mean, they had their medicine woman. They had the positions. I mean, do you have any thoughts on that?
So, a lot of what I know about the Night Sisters comes more from the Clone Wars TV show. And they did touch on that quite a bit, especially with, if I remember correctly, I believe when Savage found Maul, like crazed out of his mind with the spider legs attached to him, and like if I remember correctly, Savage brings Maul to Mother Talzin to try and restore his mind. And I really just loved how there was like no questions asked. It was just like, he's one of us, even though, if I remember correct, now I don't know if this is canon or legend, but if I remember correct, I'm pretty sure that Palpatine took him as like a baby, at least in the book. In the book, he took him as a baby. So like, they've not seen Maul for like 20 years, 25 years. And, now it's just like, oh, he's one of us. Bring him in. We're going to help him. Yeah. So that showed, to me, it showed a very, I don't know if I want to say it showed the organization well, because it was like, all right, let's bring him in. Let's do some witchy stuff and fix his head. But it definitely showed a lot of the character there of, they're not going to turn him away just because they don't know him anymore. It's like, no, this is one of ours. Mm-hmm. We're going to help him. And I really liked that side of them. Even though, yes, they are portrayed as these, witches, which are traditionally seen as evil. But yeah. But I really did like that touch of, I don't know if humanity is the right word, but that's the closest thing I can come up with to what I'm thinking.
So I used to work for Time Warner Cable, and before that, if this is way before both of y'all's time, it was Roadrunner was what high-speed internet was, and it was through your cable line, and it was before you had the cable company doing it, and it was a partnership between many cable companies to make this new standard and of high-speed internet. It was really bleeding-edge technology at the time, and I worked for them. After about 8 months, a year plus, I went ahead and went and did something else for a while. When I came back, I applied, went through the process, came on, and there was a lady named Fran. She was our marketing person at the time. And again, this was really small in Austin at the time. We had 9 agents and 2 management, and one of them was marketing to try to see what we could do with this Roadrunner product. And when I left, Fran had given me this little Roadrunner, and it had a little tag on it, and it said, "Once a Roadrunner, always a Roadrunner." I came back. I mean, it was like 2 years later. I'd only worked there less than a year. I saw Fran in the hallway. Dana Martin, once a Roadrunner, always a Roadrunner. When I saw that scene you were referring to, that's what I thought of. And in organizations, man, if you can have that sort of rapport with your employees that they leave, and if they come back and you're welcoming with open arms, you're going to, I mean, the whole point, they're back. They're loyal. And I think with the Night Sisters, man, there was a staunch loyalty between that coven. Well, I guess it was a coven, and the Brotherhood. And yeah, when you're talking about that scene, this is exactly what I thought of. Is in organizations, when you leave, you come back, you're welcome with open arms. I don't know, man. I think you kind of can move that into. Okay, I know if you like Apple, you're gonna hate what I'm about to say, but the cultish Apple cultish thing, it's like this whole presence. And when you look at your when you look at your I said here so, for those of you that are just listening and not watching, don't worry about it. So when Steve Jobs, right? It was cultish, man. He would come out and he's like, and he'd walk the stage, and they're just every like honey dripping from his mouth. Please feed us. This is amazing. And so when I think I'm exaggerating. Okay, not really.
You're not.
but you that's insane, because that was the employees. Those were employees of that. I worked at Dell too for a while, and we would have these kind of things like that, but nowhere near. And it was like Michael Dell was like, I can't make this happen. I'm trying, but I'm not as charismatic, or whatever. So I'd like to think of it like that. There's some real world magic that orgs can do. And so Apple kind of pops it in my head that there's this kind of cultish thing. I'm sure there's others.
Listen, when Steve Jobs walked out on that stage and mentioned 1,000 songs in your pocket, and does that with the first ever iPod, the crowd went nuts, and it I mean, it quite literally, it did. I will give Apple credit where credit is due. The invention of the iPod changed history.
Yeah.
Like it did. And obviously I have an old iPhone here that I used to use. Now I know better. I'm on a Samsung now. So it's actually one of my favorite things about this phone. I have the Samsung Galaxy Z Flip 4. And so I can just fold my phone at roughly 90 degrees, have it sitting here on my desk, and it's the perfect camera setup. It's great.
So you're using your phone?
Yes.
That's awesome.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm on my phone.
So sorry,
That's crazy.
Apple. Well, okay. This isn't about tech,
Android
but,
PC Master Race.
And I have been working in the tech field for a long time. I can tell you stories about Apple. All right, moving along. So yeah, I don't mean this negatively, because I think organizations always have their culture, and within that culture, it's important to not only build rapport with your employees, but also there wasn't anyone that could not approach Daka, Towson, anyone. They could, everyone, though they had their hierarchy, everyone was approachable. It's that open door policy, right? But for real, like, yeah, I got my old brother here. I'm just gonna slap him here can you guys fix him? Like,
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, it wasn't like, oh, you got to go through 5 layers of separation to get it. No, just go talk to somebody.
Red tape. What's that?
This is red tape. Pure Rahma. Sorry. So yeah. Oh man, well, this was fun, man. I know we try to talk about it's just so much, and I think our show 30, 45 minutes just isn't enough sometimes to talk about some of this stuff. But we it's good because we can circle back to it at a later date. But thank you guys for joining in this combo because I think it was really fun to kind of dissect those witches. And I like this comment. I'm going to show it there, Kat. Not the lemmings of Apple. That was funny. But witches is just a term used by people when they don't understand behavior. That I would agree with that, except for my wife's never called me a witch. So that's a joke.
General Kenobi.
Don't understand the behavior.
You are a bold one.
All right. Let's move on. I do like this one too, though. This is absolutely.
It's true though. It's true.
It is. It is.
It is. Absolutely.
It is. We can all agree.
Oh, Darth.
But can we all agree? But can we all agree that Linux is the best OS?
Yes. For the layperson, no. But yes.
Well, yeah. Well,
Yeah.
here's what I always, and I know this is
It's
way off
free,
topic, but my favorite thing about Linux is it can take you from being a layperson to learning about how computer programming works and, command line and all that stuff.
Man, I was a Red Hat guy way back. Like, again,
Oh,
before you guys were born.
Red Hat?
yeah.
I'm trying to remember. I had a roommate of mine when I lived in Omaha who he's a Linux sysadmin for a company making like 80 grand a year. He's living in the Philippines, and
Dude goes a long way in the Philippines.
Yeah, exactly. So, and like he just does everything from his computer, and I mean he's to the point now where he can literally just set up programs on his computer to do all of his work for him while he hangs out at the beach all day. It's fantastic. But I'm trying to remember now. He started to install a version of Linux on or Unix on his computer. I'm trying to remember the name, like the variety of it, the flavor of it, if you will. But it was basically you had to know so much about programming, you had to build it from the ground up. Like you had to build.
Jeez.
So everybody that had this operating system and successfully implemented it onto their computer, everybody had their own unique operating system because they built it.
Yeah. Nothing wrong with that.
Yeah. He got about 3/4 of the way through installing drives and all this stuff, and it just like kept crashing, and there were bugs, and he was just like, "I'm going back to Linux. I'm going back to my Penguin."
Yep. Show me the penguin.
Oh,
Well, Michael, we are
Right.
at the point of the show in Korriban Corner where we will talk to our guests for a few minutes. So this is your time to talk, and we're going to ask you a couple questions. Why do you keep looking at him? So I do have
I'm
a
curious.
question.
Mhm.
How did you get into geekdom? What was your what kind of cracked the seal on that?
So, growing up, my dad was born in 72. So he was old enough in 1978 or 77 when the first Star Wars came out to go see it in the theater.
I was
So he he would have been roughly like
5, 6.
5, 6, yeah, give or take.
Yeah, we
So
could've been
he
buddies in high
grew.
school. I could be your dad. Sorry. I'm a lot
But
younger than I look. Hopefully.
he grew up watching those movies as a kid, and then when I came around, and then George Lucas announces, oh, they're doing the prequels. He got really excited for that because, as far as he knew, Star Wars was over. The story was finished. So then he's like, okay, it's time, and he takes me to go see Phantom Menace. He took me to see all 3 of the prequels in the theaters. And that's growing up in the Bahamas without movie theaters. So we'd go to Florida to watch these movies.
Oh, wow.
And I remember after episode 2, he finally introduces me to the original trilogy.
Mhm.
And which I wish he would have waited until after episode 3, maybe. Well, no, because it would have ruined it. But I remember watching episode 5, and when Vader says, "No, I am your father," I was just like, I knew it. Like, I don't know. I had that suspicion the whole time. I'm like, there's something more going on here. He's either his dad or like there's something that Obi-Wan didn't tell Luke. And I picked up on that because I was always very intuitive as a kid, and like seeing the way Alec Guinness does that little like double take when Luke asks him how his father died and how he has to like think how he wants to answer. I'm like, there's something more going. There's something more going on here. But that was how I got involved in Star Wars. And then my dad's like, the first Harry Potter book came out before I could even read. And so my dad would literally like read me Sorcerer's Stone as I laid it, like to help me go to sleep at night. It wasn't until, I don't think I started reading them myself until either Prisoner or Goblet of Fire. So like, it wasn't until, and I remember being so annoyed when after I finished reading Goblet of Fire that I wanted more. I wanted to read more, and the next book wasn't out yet. So I decided to start writing my own, and I got about maybe 3 sentences in, and I went, yeah, no, I have no idea what I'm doing.
What house?
Yes. Ignore the colors on my shirt. It has nothing to do with that.
I don't know.
I will give you that hint.
I mean, I just think everyone's Slytherin like me, so I don't know.
There you go. I'm a Slytherin.
Yes!
I'm surrounded by Slytherin.
Every Harry Potter house quiz I've taken, Pottermore, TikTok, Facebook, every one I've done has always come back Slytherin. And I think the reason is because I'm cunning enough to know what answers are going to give me Slytherin, and that's what I go for. So, hey, I cheat, but it shows my Slytherin side because I'm willing to do whatever it takes to get what I want.
Slytherin, not
best. Absolutely. Slytherin is best house. Absolutely.
Look, Gryffindor, go away.
Every test I've taken.
Gryffindor.
Yeah, Gryffindor.
Your name is Slytherin. It's not even, it's an insult in itself. Slither away.
What? Oh my god. I don't know what you're going to eat next time you're
over here. Listen. You gonna let me, are you going to let me in? Listen, I'm going to come up to your Gryffindor. You going to let me slither in and Ravenclaw your Hufflepuff?
Oh, see? Yeah. Agua. No, come on, man. Seriously?
Ravenclaw? Way better.
Listen, I respect Ravenclaws for their wisdom, their love of knowledge, but they're way too passive aggressive for me. Like, you know what you want? Go out and get it.
That's right. It's true.
Take what you want.
It's right.
And so then again, Lord of the Rings was also a big one. Yeah, Lord of the Rings was also a big one. I remember I was an adult when I finally listened to the Lord of the Rings audiobooks. I had watched the movies probably a million times by then and know them by heart. I listened to the Lord of the Rings audiobook and I'm like, wow, it's so funny to me because there is so much that was either left out or added in to the movies, and yet there is I'm not going to say there's no division among the fans, but when you compare it to Star Wars, it's incredible how united the Lord of the Rings fandom is.
And then, of course, there was no Star Wars books to base it on first.
Right. Well, that's my thing too. Is George Lucas said this, and the fans are like, "That's not my Star Wars." It's like,
which is why
it'd be like if Tolkien said, I don't know, Sauron was gay. I don't know, just throwing something wild out there, and the fans were just like, "That's not my Lord of the Rings." It's like,
not my Lord of the Rings.
Mm-hmm.
Lord of the Rings is fantastic, and I remember I had to listen to the Silmarillion about 5 or 6 times before I really started to get all the details because it's like, oh, I just finished reading The Hobbit and The Lord of the Rings. I'm gonna check out the Silmarillion. It's like you went from a coloring book to a basic, second grade math book to engineer level calculus in difficulty. like, like it's insane. But I love probably the Silmarillion more than any of the rest because the Silmarillion takes place over like thousands of years and it gives you so much lore. And I could sit here forever and talk about the lore from the Silmarillion, but I won't.
It's all good, Mike. No, thanks, man. And I think it's important when I can get members of GNN on and talk about who you are because sometimes you're not in the front center like this face or whatever, and we need to make sure you're getting that right because we can't do it without you, man. And it's all about the geekdom, wherever it is.
Absolutely.
So thank you, Mike. We're going to move into Fan Theory Throwdown / Dark Side Fan Art. This isn't fan art or a theory, but it is art, and it's freaking insane. So go check this cat out. Jan Rozansky. He is, I think, from Poland. He is an artist, concept artist and illustrator. Here is his site here, janrozansky.artstation.com. So if we look at this, I'm just going to leave this here for a sec, and we're going to look at it for like 15 seconds and be quiet. And I'm going to ask Zane, when you see this pic, what goes through your mind?
A lot goes through my mind in this picture. I love the vibrant use of colors with the green.
Yeah.
And I really like how in the actual scene, I don't remember there being a whole group of Night Sisters there. I could be wrong. But I like how this picture kind of more shows the camaraderie of the Night Sisters.
Dude, it makes me want to puke, but it is true that teamwork does make the dream work. I hate that. It's so dirty. But it's true.
There's a scene in the Percy Jackson movie. I don't know if it's in
what movie?
I ever read them. The first.
What movie? There is no movie.
Lightning
Thief. There is no movie. What are you talking about?
Where what they do is they grab an arrow and they just snap it in half. And then you grab that bunch of arrows and they just can't.
Yep.
Be broken. That's from a fan project.
It is?
Fan project, right?
Yeah.
Not canon?
What, this?
I'm joking. No, the Percy Jackson.
The Percy Jackson?
Fan made.
Yeah, that was a fan made movie. Yeah. I'm excited. I'm so excited for the show because that was another book series I grew up reading.
Rick Riordan.
Mike, what are you seeing in this?
Right. I know he's not, but all I can imagine him screaming is Kenobi as he's just getting lifted in the air through sheer magic and what looks to be electricity. That literally looks like they're just force lightninging, using force lightning. Lightninging is such a weird word to say. Force lightning on him, and he's just being lifted in the air through the sheer force of the power of the electricity.
That's too cool, man. No, I'm sorry. I'm still trying to recover from that joke. I'm glad I wasn't on camera. I'm about to spit my water out. So, but yeah, that couldn't have been pleasant. But man, so for those of you that are playing along at home and just audio, it was a fantastic digital photo of Darth Maul levitating above the altar that we were talking about, and Mother Taliesin sitting there leading the charge with a whole bunch of acolyte sisters. It looks like, not that I like Night Sisters that much, but look like acolytes to me, and they're raising him. So it's pretty cool. Yeah. All right. So to wrap up for today, we talked a lot about the new book from a couple weeks ago that was just released. What was that called? I gotta find it. Inquisitor: Rise of the Red Blade, and that is the story of the 13th sister, Iskat Akaris, and I will be reading that this week. Also, we talked about the matriarchy of the Night Sisters, how that might compare to today, the ex CEO of PepsiCo, and how she was able to bring women into that organization and change that organization. We talked about the power of community, in a sense, the quote unquote cultish ways of Apple, but really a very good thing to be able to have an organization that you care so much about, that cares so much about you. And that led us to then when Maul came back, and there was no question. It was Savage, throw him up on the table, let's get him going. So let's clear his head. So we talked about all that, and then rolled into Mike and learned a little bit about one of our wonderful, I would say not employees. You have to be paid to be an employee, but one of our fantastic.
I was gonna say, where's my check, man?
David about that. Talk to the Grand Poobah about that. But no, Mike, it's been great and super fun having you on. Love to have you on again. I don't know what your schedule's like, but I will reach out to you, and if you'd like to be on, we'll make it happen.
Yeah, absolutely. I'd love to be back on, especially if it's something I know a little bit more about. Night Sisters I know about them, but I'm not as versed in their lore as I am about, say, Mandalore, or the Jedi and Sith orders themselves, stuff like that. But yeah, no, absolutely. I'd love to. I always have so much fun on these shows because it's just like I don't have the social circle that I used to be able to talk about this kind of stuff with my friends, and it's just like when I get to come on these shows and I get to just geek out and just talk about this kind of stuff. It's always fun for me. So
very cool. Thanks, man. Well, I did forget to mention this. Rancors. They rode Rancors, man. Like they rode Rancor. I mean, yeah. Oh man, no, in the making, dude. This has been done by the Night Sisters.
Yeah,
they not tamed, but they own that. They rode Rancors. It was amazing. I can't believe we forgot to talk about that. I don't have a real world comparison to Rancors, but maybe. Well, no, not even an elephant because they're not so dangerous. I got nothing. But I forgot to talk about that. So don't forget, check them out. Rancors. Next week, I'm not sure what we'll talk about. I have Darth Nihilus. Whatever.
Nihilus.
Sorry, Nihilus.
Just say nihilism.
No, yeah. It's still a mouthful. I couldn't even see
Lord of Hunger.
Dr. Dana. I couldn't even say that a while ago. So what? And it's my show.
So we're gonna get you. We're gonna get you to get to say that perfectly. And then I'm just gonna sound grab that and make it a sound bit.
Like a stream deck.
We're gonna move on into
Dark Side Deep Dive.
Whatever. Oh man. I'll put up a poll.
This is the Dark Side Deep Dive with Dr. Dana.
Thanks.
See, we can get it.
I really appreciate everyone who voted in the poll. I didn't expect but 2 or 3 people, and we had a few, so I was real excited. So yeah, I don't mind throwing stuff out there to have you guys vote on it, and we'll have the show interactive that way as well. So next week, Darth Nihilus.
Lord of Hunger.
Or I'm not sure yet. Probably Treya. Dark Treya. Dark Nihilus. And we'll flip flop. The very next week we'll do the other because they're connected, and then we'll throw Scion in there. So we'll just have the triumvirate over the next 3 weeks. The triumvirate. But I'll let you all decide. I'll put a poll up on TikTok and have you guys let me know what you want to do. But until then, thank you, Mike. Thank you, Zane. It was a pleasure and an honor. And we will see you guys next week. Remember, kids, peace is a lie. There is only passion. You guys have a good night. Oh, y'all can say bye, too. I'll wait to hit the outro.
No. Bye. Bye.